Everybody, welcome to the RPAC Minute. This month I am joined by our VP of Government Affairs, Liz Peetz, who is going to give us a recap of last week's general election. Welcome, Liz, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Cameron. I think we've all had a little bit of recovery, but it's been a long year.
Yes, I'd say the last week feels like almost a whole year. So let's jump right into it. So Liz, how about you start by giving us an overview of what happened last week and what we can expect. So,
yeah. Well, absolutely, Cameron. So I think one of the most encouraging signs we saw last week is that there was a huge voter turnout all across the country. We haven't seen this many ballots turned in for both a Democratic nominee and a presidential candidate on the Republican side for as early 1900s. I mean, part of that is probably a reflection of the intensity around the two candidates, but I think also part of that stems from all the access to mail ballots that everyone has now, that Colorado has been leading the way on for years. The other thing that we will take note of from last week's election is that the election, despite what pollsters or media gurus told us, it wasn't a mandate. It wasn't a landslide at all. In fact, we had a very close election, and we now have a new incoming presidential administration, but we're still waiting to see the balance of the US Senate in runoff elections in early January. So we have a possibility of split control at the national level. And for those of you that have been attending NAR meetings this week, you'll see that NAR and CAR are well positioned to work in a bipartisan fashion, because that's most likely what we're going to see in the new era in 2021.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Well, thanks so much for that overview. The next thing I wanted to hear about is here in Colorado, how did last week's election affect the balance of power in our own General Assembly? So what is that going to look like?
Yes, so last week we did not see a big change in party control. Colorado remains to be a bluer state than we have been in years past. The House majority is still 41 to 24 Democrats, and the state Senate is a slightly larger margin. So we'll have 21 Democrats to 15 Republicans. So the Republicans lost a couple of seats, but we are going to see with that increased margin, because we have a Democratic governor and Democratic control of all three branches of the legislature, a potential for overreach that we're going to have to watch out for. Anytime that one party, no matter what party they are in control of levers of power and have a large majority in being able to set committee priorities and caucus priorities, we're going to have to work extra hard to make sure that the business community or the property rights positions are promulgated at the Capitol. And I think that's going to be a very tough legislative environment for us to work within. I do think you can take solace in the fact that the leadership elected in the House and Senate are more moderate. We are going to see a lot of new freshman members who are more progressive in the left side of the aisle. So it will be really interesting to watch how the votes and how persuasive people can be in front of those more left-leaning sides of the Democratic Party. But we can take solace that the leadership is more moderate center. And I think that will really pay some dividends for CAR and the relationships we've built over the last couple of years. So looking forward to some hard work starting in January.
Awesome. Well, that's going to be an interesting session for sure. And lastly, we want to hear a little bit about the ballot initiative. There was a lot of ballot initiatives on our ballot this year, but CAR specifically had a stake in 4 of them. And I know that you might have a little bit more to say about certain ones, but we'd love to hear what the result was with those initiatives, and then also what we can expect to see as a result.
Yes, thank you, Cameron. We were active in 4 ballot initiatives. We did lose one, and that was the family medical leave, Prop 118. I think because voters did approve that, you're going to see a lot of robust stakeholdering take place in the rulemaking process and how we iron out the details and regulatory policy to enact that change in how we administer family and medical leave. Just want to remind you all, CAR didn't oppose it because we're against family leave. We just didn't think the structure was very viable in terms of financial stability for the state. But now it's up to us to continue to engage in that discussion along with others to make sure the rules that put it in place make sense. The other one that we engaged in is 117, which is voter approval of fees and enterprises. That one we did win. What that will mean is it's going to be a tighter knot around the state budget, because now any enterprises or fees over 100 million must be approved by voters. So that has to be referred. We'll probably be watching to see if there are any loopholes or conversations that take place at the Capitol if it falls under that threshold. But I do think voters told policymakers, we want to say in our tax burden or our fee burden. So that will be interesting to watch how it falls down to other policy levels. And then I want to finish with our other two. Gallagher was passed, so we are taking that out of our Constitution. But I think you're going to see long-term proposals on property tax reform still come forward. So we'll be engaging in that process. The last one is EE, which is the nicotine tax. So this money does send some money to affordable housing. So next year, CAR turns 100, and you're going to see us legislatively focus on turning the next century into one of opportunity and access for all. Part of that discussion is looking at that affordable housing money approved by EE and how we can strategically impact home ownership. And I know we're running long, and I know we're all tired from a long election season, but I'm so thrilled that so many of our realtors got out and voted, and thank you for being engaged during this political season.
Yes, well, thank you so much, Liz, for all that amazing information. I know that there's going to be a lot more things to come and information to come out, so we'll look forward to that. Thanks everybody for joining us for this month's RPAC Minute, and we will see you next month. Happy Thanksgiving.